Hey guys, Scott Holmberg from Pacific Residential Mortgage here, and
Stacey Sebastian with eXp Realty.
we're going to do a little video presentation on Mondays, kind of like a recap of the real estate market, kind of what we're seeing. But first off, I hope everyone had a fantastic Easter holiday weekend. I know in Central Oregon, at least, we saw some sun and were able to get outside and get a little bit of vitamin D on ourselves. One of the things that we did, I laughed because we did a social distance egg hunt at Megan's parents' house for Maddie. So Papa and Nana were up on the deck while Maddie did the egg hunt down in the grass and stuff. We actually took a social distance picture, a little selfie, where they were in the background, we were in the foreground. I'm holding the phone like this. Oh, I think that's going to work. And we're able to take that picture. So, and then instead of Easter dinner, we did the Jenkins take home instant dinner. And we took all the food back to our place, heated it up, and ate it and enjoyed it on our deck. So it was kind of funny because we sent a picture to them of what the dinner looked like that they made for us, and they got a kick out of it. So that's what we did. What did you guys do for Easter, Stacey?
That's awesome. It's tradition. This is kind of funny, but it's tradition to just hide the eggs all throughout the house. And the Easter bunny came. Sunny's only 5, so she knew when she woke up at 7 a.m. that there was going to be Easter eggs scattered all over the house. So she woke up screaming and running all over the house and collecting all the eggs. I got my favorite Reese's peanut butter cups. I don't know what your favorite are, but these are mine. So yeah.
Nice.
So we got those. So we did that for a while, and then we just baked some Easter bunny biscuits instead of just regular circle ones. So it was really awesome.
Very
So we
cool. Very
did
cool.
that, yeah. And then we worked in the yard all day. I have a little bit of a sunburn, replanting plants. So that was really awesome. Yeah, so it's really cool.
Very nice. So, like I said, we're going to kind of talk about what we're seeing in our marketplace, and from a standpoint of what I'm seeing from as a lender standpoint, rates are still holding. They're still really good. Haven't really seen much of a shift in the last week. But one of the things that I'm starting to get some of my clients asking me about is they're like, "Hey, Scott, what do you think is going to be happening with values, or what are you seeing values do?" So, Stacey, what are you seeing values do?
Well, let's go ahead and check it out and see what, I have some stuff pulled up on my screen. So let me do a little screen share here so I can pull this up. And let's go over what that looks like. So what I did so that we can just compare, let me get rid of my meeting controls here so I can see the top part. So what I did here is I thought, we could talk about what has, come up on the market in the last 3 days or so, but I said, you know what, let's do the last week and kind of compare it to last year. So I know that you'd mentioned that you had a lot of people asking. So this is a list of all the active properties that went on the market as of last Monday. So I was like, okay, so there's 47. So here's a good list of properties that have hit the market since Monday.
Nice.
And also what I did here was I went ahead and pulled last year. So we have 47 this year. And last year, this is the list of all the properties that hit the market at the same week last year, the second week of April. So you can kind of see that here, and that's 49. So we're kind of seeing about the same. So that doesn't look like it shifted too much. And I went ahead and pulled up the back on the markets. So this is what came on the market since Monday. So we have 7 of those that came back on the market here in Bend. And I tried to pull the same residential in Bend. So there's 7 that came back on the market. This time last year, we have 9 that came back on the market. So pretty similar.
Yep, very similar.
We're not seeing too much adjustments as compared to last year. So then I went ahead and pulled pendings. So you can see that we have 22 pendings this time, right since Monday. And then I went ahead and compared it to last year in 2019, and we have 47. So from 24 to 47, you can see that there is a shift. And like you had mentioned prior, Scott, the actives, those are kind of the same. And then the pendings are, a pretty big jump.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, so let's check out the solds. So here's 41 since Monday. These are the properties. That's quite a bit for the last week, right? 41
Yeah, very.
properties sold. So that's pretty impressive. And then this time last year, we saw 37 this time last year that
It's
sold.
actually more.
Yeah. So, well, there's 41 this last week and then 30. So yeah, so actually a little bit more that sold this last week. So that's very interesting. Here's where the curveball comes in. We have 36 properties that
Drop in price decreases.
Yeah, so let me just revise my criteria here and just make sure that I'm looking at the right list. Yeah, so this is price reductions. So
Okay.
if I look at the price reductions that occurred since Monday, last week, I'm seeing 36.
Okay.
So here's where it changes quite a bit is this time last year, there was 1. So, you know, some of these properties that had sold could have been, like you had mentioned prior, in escrow, you know, a month or 2 months ago, 45 days ago. So this is where we're seeing the biggest shift right here. So what are your thoughts on that, Scott?
So obviously, I think, you know, with COVID-19, there's some change in the marketplace. I think people are, a lot of times when we see change or we see some influx, people kind of have a tendency to sit on the fence and hold up. I think, though, from doing the lending for almost 18 years, to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of times we see buyers markets and then we see sellers markets. We see buyers markets and we see sellers markets. So to me, that indicates that we might be getting into a little bit more of a buyer's market. And why would that be advantageous to our clients? Well, we all know when you purchase a house, we look at kind of 3 things. A lot of people want to know, okay, how much is my down payment and what's it going to cost me? So what's my monthly payment and how much down do I have to put down? But a lot of times they have a tendency to forget that there's down payment, but then you also have closing costs. So, you know, that's your loan fees, your appraisal fees, your escrow fees, and if you have your taxes and insurance included in your payment, you have to set your impound accounts up. Well, I mean, depending on what your price point is and what you're trying to do, I mean, your total cash to close the transaction could be $6,000, $10,000, $15,000. So if I look at, we'll just use $10,000. If I finance $10,000, depending on the interest rate, you're looking roughly somewhere between $40 to $60 a month in what your payment is. But if I have $10,000 sitting in the bank and I pull $50 out a month, I can do that for over, you know, almost 200 months. Why is that important? $50 a month in payment isn't huge. $10,000 sitting in your savings account is huge, especially if there's some uncertainty. One thing we've always been told, cash is king in a downturning market. The more cash you have, the better off you are. So if I'm seeing suddenly price reductions, so from our buyer standpoint, instead of offering full price or offering over the price and having the sellers contribute to cover their closing costs, well, now we might not have to do that. We can still pay, you know, full price or even less than full price and get our closing costs covered, which is more beneficial for our buyers because it allows them to hold more cash for fixing things up, making sure you have reserves. If you live in Central Oregon, you probably live here because you enjoy doing things outdoor. Heaven forbid you ski, you break a leg, and now you can't work for 2 months. Or we look at the environment we're in right now. There are a lot of people that have a job right now, but they don't know how long. So this creates that safety net. And I think it's a great time from a buying standpoint to take advantage of that. What do you think?
Yeah, and you know, I want to touch on one subject that has to do with buying, but just to touch on the part where there's the price reductions, it's only fair to say that, you know, there is so much uncertainty when we are walking into those listing presentations. By the way, I did my first virtual listing presentation the other day with the computer sitting on the table and the whole family sitting in the room. So that's a thing now. And it was really interesting. You know, you wanting to shake their hand and you're like, oh, hey,
It's up to the
what's up?
screen.
But I just wanted to say that, you know, it's like a lot of real estate agents, you know, we don't know where to price necessarily. And so I think what I've been saying to a lot of my agents is, you know what, look at this as potentially like winter time, because it is unpredictable. There is some unpredictability there. So when you're looking to price those properties, you know, maybe consider this as being those winter months where, you know, you have a less buyer pool and you want a little bit more, you know, motivation in somebody writing up an offer on your property. And like you're saying, wrapping those closing costs, you know, those sellers are probably going to be more willing, especially the ones going on the market. They have a reason for placing it on the market in these uncertain times. And that could be a little bit more motivation for those buyers. And writing those closing costs is into the offer may not be as complicated as it was before. I know my last VA loan, I wrote at least 3 offers to try to get those $10,000 in closing costs covered. And it took a few times because that wasn't a norm. That isn't a norm, and it does take a little bit more. But I do want to touch on virtual showings, because even one of my agents was asking, hey, Stacey, you know, there's some concern or there's some question of what that looks like for these buyers. And to maybe get past some of that fear, there is opportunity for virtual showings, like I'd mentioned before, where we can do those FaceTimes. We can do those YouTube videos for you if you'd prefer. And also we can simply go turn on the lights, unlock the door, and stand outside on the lawn or go back in our cars, so that there isn't that concern from a buyer that you're meeting your real estate agent and we're not going to take offense to it. We can stand wherever you want us to. So I did touch on that topic with my agents last week in a webinar and say, hey, you know, give them options and tell them what their options are, so there isn't that fear as well as maybe going on a showing. So and a lot of people don't know you can do video. You know, they've never done that before to see a house, right? So yeah. So I think that was the biggest thing I wanted to touch on, just because I did have an agent ask that. How do I show property?
No, I think it's great because the market isn't going to just stop. There's always going to be a reason to have to buy or sell a home. And so the more creative we can be in this marketplace, it's going to benefit our clients better, because if you're starting to see price reductions, you're starting to see some things like that. Again, we preach it all the time, but be prepared. Be prepared, getting qualified, getting all your assets and everything, as we would say, your ducks in a row, because if that house that you've been wanting to buy suddenly drops its price, or a neighborhood opens up and it's like, wow, that's a lot cheaper than what we thought it was going to be, you want to take advantage of it, because now you're going to create that situation better for your family, and you're not sitting on the fence and missing something. And then 2 or 3 months down, because some of the things we're starting to see is third quarter, fourth quarter could be up, especially as we work our way through this. And so this blip on the screen, or this moment, might not be that long. And you don't want to sit there and say, shoot, I wish I was prepared a couple months ago when prices started to come down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like those price drops on the market are happening slowly and they're getting more and more intense, you're going to see, if things start picking up, you're going to see a little bit of a gradual pickup too. So, you know, timing is everything, and getting qualified is number one, whether it's now or it's 3 months from now or 6 months from now. Working on your credit if you need to and not knowing you need to is priority, so that you are ready when it's time. So yeah, so I think we touched on what we wanted to touch on for today.
Yep.
And if there's anything that you guys wanted to talk about or you have questions about, please let us know. We'd love to touch on them. And I think we're going to do this, weekly, Scott?
Yeah, I think we'll do kind of a little market update on Mondays, and kind of stay tuned for some of our other little videos that we'll do. We'll drop during the week.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for meeting
All
me,
right.
Scott.
Yep. We'll talk to you later. Have a great one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.